Welcome back to Face the State on this Sunday morning. With us now to talk about Tuesday's primary is Mayor Luke Bronin, who is seeking a second term. And Mayor Bronin, good to see you here on the program.
Good to see you too, Dennis.
How do you think you're going to do on Tuesday?
Well, we've been working hard for a long time, we're down the home stretch over the next 4 or 5 days. We'll be doing everything we can to get the vote out. But we spent the last couple of months talking directly to voters, knocking on a lot of doors. And I hope voters will come and make their voices heard regardless of where they stand.
Back in 1993, Mike Peters, who was not mayor then, lost the primary but went on to win the general as an independent. What is your plan if you should lose on Tuesday?
So I have not collected signatures to run in the general. I am a Democrat. I hope and intend to win this primary, and that's my plan.
So if it's Brandon McGee or Eddie Perez, you will support that person?
Well, as far as who I support, we'll see what the outcome is. Obviously, I intend to do everything I can to make sure that I'm representing the Democratic Party in November and getting the chance to move the city of Hartford forward in the years ahead.
You know, one question I need to ask you, and we've talked about this issue before on this program, and there are some who question your commitment to the job of mayor of the city of Hartford because you looked into running for governor just a short time ago. Today, what kind of commitment would you want to make if you were elected? Will you serve that full 4-year term?
What I would say is to anyone who's watched the work that I've done over the last 4 years is that I'd ask them to measure my commitment to Hartford in the work that we've done, in our willingness to tackle the tough issues that had been delayed and ignored for too long, and the fact that I've gone out and done town hall after town hall every single month and been out and always welcomed the most difficult conversations. I've worked my heart out for the last 4 years, and if I'm elected, I plan to serve for another 4 and keep the work of moving the city forward going.
Is that a commitment that you would not run for higher office in the next 4 years?
My plan is to stay mayor for the next 4 years, but beyond that, the pledge that I make to every Hartford voter is that I will always work my heart out for this city. I will always do what I think is in the long-term best interest of the city, and every decision I make will be guided by what I think is best for the city of Hartford. You know,
there are some who say, well, if Governor Lamont turned to you and said, listen, I need you to be commissioner of XYZ, or I need you to do that, but there's a difference with actually saying, a congressional seat opens up and you're going to run for that. Would you rule that out today, or run for higher office?
I don't expect to plan to do anything other than be mayor for the next 4 years.
I was talking to Stan McCauley about this just moments ago. The number one problem is that people say the grand list needs to be improved. You look at West Hartford nearby, building left and right, lines for restaurant owners to get into one little spot, and yet we have open vacant spots that have been vacant for years. What's your plan to fill these places?
The plan is what we're doing. If you look around the city right now, we have so much work to do, and our grand list has been way too small for way too long. But if you look around the city now, whether you're looking at the downtown or the neighborhoods, you can see more activity than you've seen in a long, long time. You see investment coming into the city again. You see residential units being built. You see projects like Westbrook Village and Bowles Park, those old post-war public housing projects that have been decaying, now being brought back to life as quality, affordable housing. You see things like the Albany Avenue streetscape that lifts up an important commercial corridor. You see things like the Parkville Market, which we toured just a couple of days ago, and to see the progress there right around the corner from where the hub on Park, additional quality affordable housing is going up on Park and Park Terrace, just down the street from a library that helps lift up that neighborhood, and again just down the street from where Park meets Main Street, those lots that have been vacant for decades that will soon be under construction. You look at the same thing around the Dono lots around the ballpark, where we've fought to clear the path to be able to move that development forward. And then you look at buildings like Pearl and Trumbull Street, 2 buildings again that have sat vacant in the heart of our city for the last 20 to 30 years that are now back online, back to life, and paying taxes. We have to continue to make sure that investors see the momentum here, that they have confidence in Hartford city government. That's the mission that I've been on, and I think we're starting to get some momentum for the first time in a long time, but we've got a lot more work to do.
You mentioned confidence in city government. What kind of message would it send to voters, in your judgment, or to business leaders across the state, potential investors, if Eddie Perez were to be brought back into office?
That's a judgment for Hartford's voters to make. What I would say is Eddie Perez got a chance to move Hartford forward for 10 years, and I think he had his shot. We, over the last 3.5 years, have tackled some of the biggest crises and toughest challenges our city's ever faced. We did it honestly. We did it with a view to the long term. And we planted seeds at the same time that we're starting to see grow. And we need to keep moving in this direction, step by step. We've got a ton of work to do. But I think that for the first time in a long time, Hartford has a path. We have a plan. We're starting to get some momentum, and we need to protect it and keep it moving.
Walk us through the next 4 years. If you're reelected, what we will see change-wise in Hartford?
Well, number one, as I just said, we're going to defend the progress that we've made. We had to fight awfully hard just to get our city onto solid ground. That's got to be protected and defended. We're going to continue to push development throughout our city, in our neighborhoods, all around this small 17-square-mile city. We're going to continue to build on things like our youth service corps, which has created hundreds of jobs for young people in Hartford, in many cases their first opportunity to earn a paycheck, but also connecting them to a broader set of supports and mentorship and counseling. We're going to keep building on things like our reentry center. My goal for Hartford and my goal as mayor is to make Hartford the strong and vibrant hub of this region of more than 1 million people, but also to be a city where everyone in Hartford has a share in the city's rise. That's the mission that we're fighting for every day. We're
going to be talking about historic Hartford after the break, but if you look at the population 50 years ago, obviously Hartford has lost tens of thousands of people. What is your plan to get people to actually move back? Are you seeing any progress in that regard?
For the last number of years, Hartford's population has been stable. But when you look at the downtown, one of the things I think you've got to recognize is that when G. Fox left and a lot of the retail left, Hartford's downtown was dead after 5 and on weekends. And that's why we have put some emphasis on residential development, taking those vacant commercial office buildings, getting them converted to residential, and those have been filling up faster than most people expected. And what that does is it puts feet on the street, it creates different level of energy and activity, and you couple that with things like the Yard Goats, which is drawing in thousands of people, both residents and folks from around the region, Hartford Athletic down at Dillon Stadium, coupled with our long-standing arts and cultural institutions, and we punch way above our weight when it comes to arts and culture in the city of Hartford. I think all of that taken together is starting to create a different sense of energy and activity, and that's the kind of thing you got to create a virtuous cycle, a virtuous circle. It builds on itself if you keep it moving.
In the coming years, we're going to see a new focus on rebuilding I-84 through downtown Hartford, and I want to ask you, which proposal do you prefer? The tunnel, the hybrid tunnel, John Larson's tunnel?
Well, first of all, I hope you're right that we see progress on it. I think that whether we see progress on it depends on whether the legislature in the state makes the tough decisions that are necessary to invest in our infrastructure here in Connecticut. I hope the federal government finally steps up with some infrastructure investment. At the end of the day, the big opportunity that I see is to reconnect our neighborhoods. You have I-84 cutting the city in half, north and south. You got 91 that cut our beautiful city off from its beautiful river. Those were two of the biggest planning mistakes of the last century. And I hope we have an opportunity to correct that. On I-84, I want as much of that highway as possible put below grade so you can knit our neighborhoods back together.
Mayor Luke Bronin up for re-election this year and on the primary ballot this coming Tuesday.
That's
Best
right.
of luck. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, we'll talk about restoring history and recreating music history. And we welcome your comments on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter right now.